was 'n baie harde reis geweest, dit was baie lekker geweest.
Our Tools Tour Natal Rally kicked off the Natal South African Rally Championship on the KwaZulu-Natal South Coast in early March. 53 cars took to the start line in the resort town of Scottsboro.
Sorrel, the faces are pretty much the same as last year, but there's a lot of new machinery out in the field. What are your expectations?
Yeah, a bit of deja vu, really. Same guys, but like you said, new cars. I think Toyota looks very strong. Sergio's got a new car, Etienne's got his old car, so serious backup there. And they were very dominant last year. Now, Volkswagen has also got new cars, but apparently they haven't done a lot of testing, so maybe this is going to be another sorting out session. And then, of course, Scott's got a new car. Fernando's car's been upgraded. And, of course, Gemmel's always there. And he had a bit of a bad run last year, but I think it's sort of the makeup of a very good rally season. And it should be very tight. Scott's car, for instance, quite a lot lighter than this one he had last year, and he was running up there with the guys quite a few times. Fernando's had his suspension done, so he's going to be quicker. And Gemmel is always there. So I think it's got the makings of a fantastic season. In Volkswagen itself, they had a very bad year last year. Enzo was maybe the dominant partner in the team last year, but a self-confessed star like Johnny, I don't think he's going to take that lightly.
Last year, a lot of retirement, so we're hoping to get reliability this year. Running the same car, so no surprises. And but I think with more competition, we got Etienne in there, a few more extra four-wheel drives, so it'll be interesting.
And have you done any testing?
About an hour of it.
Well, then there's bad news because Dubs has done a lot of it.
Yes, but you know, like I say, there's nothing new on the car. This is a car that's been running for about 6 years now, so I think it's pretty sorted, and all I needed to imprint on it was my specific setup. I'm happy that I've done that, so looking forward to the event.
Serge, you've come off a fantastic year. Car went well, you drove exceptionally well. What's the season look like?
Well, you know, we're hoping to have the same type of season we had last year. I mean, last year we had a slow start, but eventually everything came to place and worked for us. So I'm sure some of those N4s will give us maybe some surprise this year.
We saw last year on the first event reliability was a problem because the guys hadn't tested much. Looks pretty much the same this year. A lot of cars been put together at the last minute.
I think this is the rally where they build the cars for the whole year. It's over the past few seasons that's been the case, and I know Toyota's done a lot of testing, so maybe they're out of the equation this year, but I hope it's not the case, but it probably would be.
Guy Hodgson were the first on the road in their new Class A8 BP Volkswagen Golf. Watch for the changing road conditions, the punishment the crew were taking, and how hard Kuhn was having to work right from the beginning. During the off-season, previous Volkswagen sponsor Sasol made way for rival fuel sponsor BP, who returns to motorsport for the first time since its days as title sponsor of the BMW touring car team a few years back. The new season saw Kuhn and Hodgson starting their second campaign together in the Volkswagen team after previously pairing up at Daewoo. For Kuhn, it is his third season with the Uitenhage-based manufacturer. After Kuhn had finished a close second in the 2002 championship, he was hoping to go one better last season, but poor reliability scuppered his hopes of a good finish. With a brand new car under him, he was hoping for increased reliability this year in an effort to mount a serious title challenge. The new Golf shell was imported from Volkswagen Racing in Germany, as opposed to being built locally, as was the case with the previous model. Although no different in specification to the old car and therefore sporting no significant performance gain, the new car should offer increased stiffness and reliability. Former champions Jan Habig and Douglas Judd were out in the second brand new Class A8 BP Volkswagen Golf. They also had a torrid season last year with woeful reliability eliminating them from the championship race. They were hoping for better luck in their seventh season with the Volkswagen team. Serge Damso and Robert Paisley emerged as champions last year in their first full season as a pairing in the Class A8 Castrol Toyota Run X. Last year's event saw them fighting an ill-handling, newly developed car for the entire distance. They learnt their lesson and conducted significant testing with this year's new car before the event. Thus, they knew they had a good steed under them this time around. Johnny Gemmell and Greg Godrich suffered the worst luck of all in their Class N4 L&J plant hire Subaru Impreza last season, failing to score a point after leading every event entered. Gemmell was hopeful that his crew had ironed out all the bugs from last year and that they would once again be in a position to win rallies throughout the year. Etienne Lawrence and Andre Vermeulen were the stars of last season as they pushed Damzu all the way to the final event for the title. It was almost a case of David versus Goliath as the crew were up against the Class A8 cars in their team total Class A7 Toyota Corolla. Their success saw them upgrade to the Premier Class A8 for this season with Team Total. Lawrence was still feeling his way with the ex-Damso Run X after precious little time to test during the off-season, and he felt that some mechanical changes were still necessary for him to extract the maximum from the car. It was not a good start for Lawrence as a puncture saw him lose 40 seconds to stage winner Damsu, who blitzed the field to take an early 14-second lead. Michael Schumacher's fans were confused as to when he would arrive. Fernando Rueda also threatened to win an event last season, but just couldn't pull it off in his Motion Motorsport Mitsubishi Lancer. Partnered with Pierre Aris, who joined him mid-season last year, he was confident of taking the fight to the Class A8 cars. He started well with equal second fastest time. Kuhn caught up with a private vehicle in the middle of stage 2. Watch closely as he gets the Golf going sideways as he passes. The incident would lead to much unhappiness on the event as the Golf broke a side shaft a little further into the stage, which Kuhn and Hodgson attributed to hitting a rock as they squeezed past the vehicle. Having lost a significant amount of time, the pair appealed to the officials for relief. After considering the evidence, Kuhn was given the same stage time as teammate Habig, a decision no one could fathom as it set a precedent never seen before. Usually, if there is an unfair disadvantage, either all competitors get the same time or the stage is scrapped. The incident and decision incensed the other competitors, who felt that it was hugely unfair to award Kuhn a competitive time, as over the years teams have come across other cars and even animals, and they just had to bear the consequences. The decision meant Kuhn kept second position on the road for day 2, which proved to be an advantage for him in the wet conditions and a disadvantage to those behind. The drive shaft failure cost Kuhn 2 minutes in the stage and allowed teammate Habig to close right up to the ailing Golf. Habig had also come across the private car, losing time in the process, and now lost more time in Kuhn's dust. While Judd and Shrewsbury discussed stage times, Kuhn's mechanics were working furiously to replace the broken drive shaft in the time permitted for servicing. Visser du Plessis in a new Metmeister Outsurance Impreza was cruising after navigator Johan Smallberger fell ill at the start of the stage and was in a comatose state. It was the end of their rally. Amid the peace of the Natal farmlands, Kuhn blasted off into stage 3. The Golf had been repaired in time and was back up to full speed. Although it was a brand new body shell, it didn't require much development work, as the Volkswagen team utilized the same suspension setup as previously. It was good enough to see the crew post the third fastest stage time, some 4 seconds behind the winner. They were now 5th overall. Last year's event winners Habig and Judd had started the event with equal second fastest time, and on this stage would go third quickest. Last year they won 9 stages, but matching the feat already appeared to be a tall order. Despite arriving at the event with a brand new car that featured significant changes over last season's championship winning machine, Damsu was ultra confident as the team had completed over 200 kilometers of testing prior to the event. The substantial testing had allowed the team time to iron out all the handling vices and tailor the package to suit the 9-time champion's driving style. We had predicted last year that the championship winning performance of the Runex in its debut season was ominous, as there was still much more to come from the package. At this early stage, it already appeared as if the Toyota held a significant advantage over its rivals. With 62 rally wins to his name at the end of last year, Damsu had closed to within 4 of equaling Cyril van der Merwe's all-time record of 66. The Somerset West-based businessman won 4 of the 8 rallies in 2003, and a similar feat would leave him level pegging with the 11-time champion. Navigator Paisley won his first national title with Damsu last year and would desperately love to add another to his bow, while Toyota would like to add to its 12 manufacturers' titles. It scored almost double the points of its closest rival last season, on its way to winning a total of 15 titles in a dominant season. This stage was to be another impressive one for the Toyota, with Damsu taking his 3rd stage win on the trot to open up a 27-second advantage over Gemmell and Godrich. Gemmell hadn't yet won a stage, but had set consistently quick times to hold 2nd overall behind Damsu. Lawrence and Vermeulen were struggling in their new mount. 2 punctures in the first 2 stages saw them lose almost 2 minutes to leader Damsu. They went another 18 seconds down on this stage to languish in 8th place. Not the type of start to his Premier Class campaign that Lawrence would have expected. After yet another puncture, the team discovered that they were underinflating the tyres and corrected the problem. It was the end of their puncture woes. It wasn't the first time that Lawrence had contested Class A8. In 1998 and 1999, he ran a total Toyota Conquest, putting in some good results before returning to Class A6 when Toyota decided to drop out of the Premier Class in 2000. Being back in the Premier Class, the pressure is on him to perform. While his performances in the Class A7 car last year were stunning, there are those who feel that he will struggle in the top class. After his good start, the Raider lost 2 minutes on stage 2 and incurred a 3-minute penalty at service due to a faulty sensor that brought the oil pressure light on in the stage. Jean-Pierre Damsu and Kobus Frey started the event slowly in their Class A7 Team Total Toyota Corolla, looking out of sorts with the car. After their reliability-plagued season in 2003, Jürgen Fecken and Dave Levkovich were hoping for increased reliability from their Class A7 BP Volkswagen player this season. Their rivalry with Damsu Jr. will be watched with interest during the season. Skalkberger and Vito Bonafede were finding their feet in their newly imported ProDrive-built Bridgestone Subaru SA Impreza. They set the second fastest time on this stage to hold third overall. Fresh from a regional event win, Kali van der Merwe and Gideon Trollop were pumped up in their mobile Subaru Impreza. Nicholas Ryan and Brian Carahill made an impression last season and had managed to attract support from Bosel for their Subaru Impreza. They were fourth on this event last year and wanted another good result. The top car Bosch BMW of Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen had shed some more weight and found more power over the close season. However, it was suffering from an electrical misfire that the crew couldn't trace, despite 2 days at BMW guru Hendy van der Linde's workshop. Charles Wilkin and Robin Houghton had things all their own way in Class N3 last season in their Castrol Toyota Run X, but with new entrants to the class this year will be more difficult. One of their major class rivals will be Jean Buerta and Greg Gericke in their Rally Star Ford Focus ST170. As will multiple Class A5 champions Rodney Versace and Carolyn Swan, who have a new Team Total Toyota Run X at their disposal for the season. Chris DeWitt joined the Team Total outfit in a Class N2 Toyota Corolla and was teamed with a new navigator in Patrick Yende. Die-hard spectators braved the elements as rain began falling. Being first on the road, Kuhn was having the best of the road conditions. He was pushing hard and using every piece of road as is his custom, but the pace just was not in the car. Despite being a front runner for many years, Kuhn has never won an overall national title and is desperate to do so. He won 2 rounds last year, but unreliability cost him any shot of the title. A year earlier, he had blown his title shot by hitting a rock early in the final event, when simply finishing would have secured him the crown. He finished second fastest in stage 5, and in this stage moving him ahead of Habig in the overnight standings. Habig is always spectacular to watch as he gives it his all. His committed efforts paid off in stages 4, 5 and 6 as he was third quickest on all 3. However, it wasn't enough to keep Kuhn at bay as the latter overturned a 14-second deficit after stage 4 to lead by 11 seconds. Habig has won 4 national titles, all with Judd navigating. This will be their 14th year as a team. With a healthy lead, Damsu didn't have to risk anything and was now controlling the pace from the front. Watch him using the middle of the road while others were using every edge. Despite his conservative approach, Damsu still set the second fastest stage time in stages 4 and 6 and won stage 5 to increase his overall lead still further. Gemmell held second from Skalkberger after 3 stages, but he was battling with incorrect brake discs. They were beginning to glaze and affecting his pace over the remaining stages as the problem got progressively worse.
Sorrel, this event started out dry. The rain set in now. Tell us about the road surface and what the competitors can expect.
Still not quite in the groove, but he was within range of class leader Fecken. However, a puncture cost him about 30 seconds in stage 4. Fecken had suffered a high-speed trip into the sugarcane fields in stage 3 after cresting a blind rise at full tilt in 6th gear, only to find the road turning away. He was quickly on his way again, but on the next stage the player jammed in 3rd gear. It couldn't be fixed before the evening service, but nonetheless Fecken did a sterling job to lose minimal time to Damsu Jr. over the remaining gravel stages and hold on to his class lead. Berger was enjoying his new car. The Impreza was only offloaded from the ship in the early hours of the Thursday morning before the event, forcing the crew to pull out all the stops to assemble it before the start of the rally. It also meant that he hadn't driven it on gravel at all before the first stage. Nevertheless, he quickly got to grips with it and set the fastest stage time in stage 4 to move into 2nd overall ahead of Gemmell. However, this puncture on the left rear cost him a further 2 minutes, dropping him to 5th. Lawrence's woes hadn't ended with the solving of his puncture problem. Stage 5 saw him lose another chunk of time when the rear suspension triangle broke, shedding a wheel. It was proving to be a frustrating event for the Centurion businessman, and he had to accept the fact that he was languishing at the lower end of the top 10, rather than the head of the field where he expected to be. Van der Merwe was setting consistent times, comfortably holding down a place in the top 10. Blackman was pedaling the tail-happy BMW hard, much to the delight of the fans. The raspy 2-litre Beamer engine sounded glorious, but it's a bit too loud for the officials and will have to be muted before the next event. The car still runs with a manual gearbox compared to the rest of the Class A8 cars, which run sequential gearboxes, giving them a performance advantage. The car also needs to shed a few kilos, although Blackman isn't sure that he can trim it any further. Nevertheless, he had been making steady progress up the field and now held 7th overall. The final 2 stages of the day were run in the dark in the centre of Pinetown. It was pouring with rain, but that didn't stop a huge crowd of eager fans gathering to watch the action. The cars ran the same stage twice, and both occasions were run to a super special format, which sees 2 cars going head-to-head against each other. Teammates Kuhn and Habig took each other on in the first duel. The conditions were tough for competitors, with visibility in the rain significantly reduced. After a disappointing day out on the gravel, these stages gave the Golfs an opportunity for some success. Kuhn duly obliged by setting the 2nd fastest time on the first run and the fastest time on the 2nd. On both occasions, Habig was only 1 second slower. Berger and Damsu Jr. went head-to-head. The younger Damsu is somewhat of a specialist on these stages and didn't disappoint. He set the fastest time in the first run, followed by 2nd fastest on the final stage of the day. Berger did his cause no good by spinning, but he recovered quickly with minimal time lost to set a competitive time. Fecken was still stuck in 3rd gear and doing a good job, but he wrong-slotted here to allow JP Damsu to close the gap even more. He lost 20 seconds on each running of the stage, allowing Damsu to narrow the gap to just 13 seconds at the overnight halt. Fecken wasn't the only one getting lost. Ryan and Carahill made even more of a hash of it, getting lost twice. On the 2nd occasion, they even had to ask directions from the marshal. After a tough day in the field, they were languishing down in 16th place at the overnight halt. The fans enjoyed the action. Despite being wet and cold, they put the weather behind them to watch until the very end. At the end of day 1, Damsu had a comfortable 44-second lead over Kuhn, with 2nd to 5th places separated by a little over 2 minutes. With the unpredictable weather set to play a part, anything could happen on day 2. Williams was brilliant, while Lawrence was in unfamiliar territory in 10th over 6 minutes behind the leader. Heavy overnight rain. On stages 10 and 11, Kuhn obliged his fan club with 2nd fastest time behind Damsu. Habig continued the surprising dominance of the 2-wheel drive cars in the conditions by rounding out the top 3 opening stage times in stage 10. Gemmell had borrowed new discs from Berger overnight, but still wasn't on the pace of the Toyota, losing 25 seconds to Damsu in stages 10 and 11. Berger was slow out of the blocks, also dropping time on both opening stages. Feckin was pleased to have 5 gears once again after his crew changed the gearbox at the overnight service. He couldn't afford to hang back as JP Damsu was now breathing down his neck. Nevertheless, he took it cautiously through the water splash, as the players' electrics always have an aversion to the slightest amount of water. With Feckin in his sights, Damsu wasn't hanging around and was a lot less cautious through the water. It didn't help his cause though, as Feckin was 8 seconds faster in stage 10, but Damsu took back 7 seconds on the next test. Blackman and Klaassen had a top 5 finish within their sights, and they were pushing hard. They were 6th and 7th fastest on the 2 stages. Van der Merwe was increasing his pace too, challenging the Class A7 cars for stage times. After his first day disaster, Lorenz was hopeful that day 2 would bring more joy. With nothing to lose, he set about catching those ahead with purpose, but the thick mud would rip a brake caliper off. Wilkins started day 1 off too slowly, allowing Visagie to take an early lead. He then picked up his pace to lead overnight, but he knew he would have to push hard to keep the team total driver behind. After years in golfs, Barry Grobler was having his first outing in the ex-Mally Savile Subaru with Mike Barrows in the navigator's seat. He was slowly getting the hang of his new mount. Visagie trailed Vulcan by just 13 seconds overnight, offering the prospect of a no-holds-barred fight to the end. With both drivers in similar cars, it was down to driving ability. They set identical times in stage 10. Buerta was struggling to find the pace to match the 2 Toyotas and found himself 1 minute behind overnight. He lost another chunk of time on the opening 2 stages. With the pressure mounting in Class N3, Vulcan was the first to make a mistake as he slid off the road after entering a corner too quickly. There wasn't much damage, but the car was stuck fast. Supervan gave some encouragement, but it was left to navigator Houghton to get his overalls dirty as he tried everything to free the car, but to no avail. The event was over. Regional competitors Costa Kumantarakis and Barry White were also caught up by the conditions, but inflicted considerably more damage to their conquest than Vulcan did to his Run X. Rallies are all about cars, drivers and technology. We found out what went into Burger's new Subaru.
Andy Williams from ProDrive. You're involved in the build of Skulk's new car. Tell us about it.
Good morning.
His lead, Damsu started the day on maximum attack, pushing his Run X to the limits. It saw him win the opening 4 stages of the day, but puzzled the other competitors who felt that he didn't need to be taking such a risk. Damsu simply said he wanted to show the others that they had no chance and shouldn't bother attacking his lead. Perhaps he was just having fun. While the controversy about his stage 2 let-off raged on, Kuhn was still pushing hard in an attempt to put some daylight between himself and teammate Habig. Let's watch as he fights the car through the tight sugarcane stages. This was the stage that brought Kuhn's event to an end last year, while he was comfortably in the lead with just 2 stages to go. His retirement on that occasion was due to the Golf's engine dropping a valve. He was hoping that no such bad luck would befall him this time around. Habig was victorious on this event last year, but without a stage win to his name up to this point, a repeat performance was unlikely barring a huge stroke of misfortune for others. Gemmel's car was running reliably, unlike last season when he suffered mechanical failure in almost every event. Perhaps it was because he had not led the event yet, as last year's leading appeared to be his bogey. He was now chasing down Habig for third place. After 11 stages, the gap was just 20 seconds and he was driving hard, perhaps too hard. Note how he threw the wieldy Subaru through the tight stage until he overdid it and slid into a tree. Fortunately, the Subaru could continue without losing too much time, but the battered car was much the worse for wear. As an indication of what time he may have set on the stage, he lost just 24 seconds to Habig, who was second fastest on the stage. Berger decided to take no risks, as his puncture of the day before had put Gemmel out of reach. However, with the latter having seriously damaged his car against the tree, Berger was starting to sniff that a Class N4 win might be on the cards after all. Fecken was starting to open a more comfortable gap over Damsu Jr., but there was not much in it. JP was still pushing hard, as he knew that Fecken's lead was tenuous. There was still a chance of taking the class win. Blackman was nearing his goal of a top 6 finish, despite the car still suffering from the misfire. With its tail out of style, photographers still have an opportunity to capture the classic opposite lock rally pic when the Beamer comes past. With his mechanical troubles behind him, Lawrence could eventually start setting better stage times and make progress towards the more respectable half of the top 10. At this point, any points would do for him, but every position gained could prove to be vital at the end of the season, so he was pushing hard. Overshoots like this wouldn't help his cause, though.
Etienne, first time out in your new Class A8 car. How's it been going so far?
Terrible, but thanks for asking. Now we've had a lot of hassles, teething problems, things that have gone wrong, and wheels falling off, flat wheels by the dozen. So yeah, not a good day, not a good start. But we're learning the car, and we'll sort it out by the next rally.
Versaghi and Swan were now unchallenged in Class N3, but for Grobler and Burrows, their event was over in stage 14 when the Subaru's gearbox cried enough. With just 3 stages to go, Damsu eventually eased off just a little to stroke it home safely. Even so, he was still in the top 4 finishers on each stage. His performance on this event had the opposition concerned, as he seemed to win stages as easily as Schumacher won the Australian Grand Prix. Like the Ferrari, the Radex still has a lot in it too. Kuhn and Hodgson was still holding down second place and had resigned themselves to not catching the Toyota. However, they had to keep peering over their shoulders, as teammates Habig and Judd were never too far behind. Habig's never-say-die attitude meant that he was not backing off in the slightest. He knew he could still pinch second from Kuhn and was going flat out to make it a reality. His commitment was entertaining to watch. Pity not more of our drivers know where to look for the limit. There was consternation in the Volkswagen pit when Kuhn and Hodgson failed to emerge from stage 14. We let Kuhn take up the story.
Good. Well, we just found this Jubilee clip broke. It was rubbing against the starter and popped off, and that held the radiator hose. So that's the end of us. Car was overheating, and we're trying to repair it now with what we got. We got Guy walking to the local stream getting water. But the problem is, as soon as the pressure builds up, the pipe's going to pop off. So that's how we went.
It was another disappointing end to the Natal event for the duo, and once again so close to the finish line. Meanwhile, Gemmel's situation had changed dramatically. From challenging a big four position and having a comfortable gap to Berger, his indiscretion with the tree had allowed Berger to get far too close for comfort, as Berger homed in on his third place. Fecken was enjoying his most trouble-free run for a long time. He'd managed to fend off Damsu by a few seconds in the previous two stages, but it was still a little too close for his comfort. Damsu's Day 2 performance was significantly improved over the opening day when he looked completely out of sorts with the car. He was now right in the thick of the battle with Fecken setting comparable times with a player. Unfortunately, this puncture just 4 kilometers into the long stage 15 scuppered his chances of taking the class win as he lost over 30 seconds. Note the serious amount of damage done to the bodywork from the flailing tire. Blackman was well hooked up in the Bosch-sponsored BMW, setting his best time of the rally on stage 15.
Cliff, your second event in Class A8 trim with the BMW, are you having a lot of fun today?
Yes, yeah, and it's certainly nice to drive with a bit of horsepower. We're having a lot of fun. Easier to drive. Yeah.
Once again, the car's proving reliable, and today you're putting in a bit of a charge. You've just set the 4th fastest stage time on stage 15.
Yeah, I think the stage suited the car. It's drying up a bit, so it's getting a lot easier to drive.
How have you felt the conditions this morning? Very wet. Have they suited the rear-wheel drive?
Look, I must admit it suited them quite well, much to my surprise. And normally it doesn't, but yeah, the handling of this car certainly it's gone in great leaps and bounds. No, it was actually not too bad.
Unfortunately, the BMW was forced to retire shortly afterwards. Van der Merwe's smoking Subaru also appeared as if it wouldn't make the end. Tony Ball upgraded his Golf to Class A8 specification for this season, and he was enjoying a reliable outing on his way to 4th in class and 12th overall. The spectators had their own theories as to the handling abilities of the various cars, while photographers waited for a final shot as the rally drew to a close. It was plain sailing for Damsu as he cruised to the finish line, setting equal second fastest time with the other two drivers. It was a perfect start to the defense of his title as he seeks a 10th championship success.
Well, Serge, is a hell of a start to the season, and for the change, you've got a fantastically sorted car as well.
Yes, it's good to start the season by winning the first one, and the car went very well. It was very well sorted before the rally, so everything fell in place.
In the class classifications, Stroux and Steyn won Class A6, Duplessis and Barbosa took Class N1, De Wit and Yende won Class N2 on their team total debut. Versaghi and Swan were the only finishers in N3, with Gemmell holding on for the N4 win.
So, the end of the rally?
So, quite apparent here was the lack of pace of the N4 cars. I think they should have, I thought they were going to do a lot better and be quicker. So maybe the guys there also could have got some homework.